Welcome to The Dark Story tells today. Story is very creepy and spine-chilling.
The Haunted Road, the road that never ends. Introduction. It was late October, the perfect season for long drives and spooky adventures. Sam, Jake, Mia, and Laura, four inseparable friends, were on their way back from a weekend getaway in the countryside. They had spent the last 2 days hiking, sharing ghost stories by the campfire, and laughing at each other's fears. The group prided itself on their bravery, often mocking people who believed in ghosts or urban legends. On the way home, they faced a choice: take the main highway, which was a longer but safer route, or cut through a lesser-known road called Shadow Lane. Jake, the most daring of the group and their designated driver, quickly suggested the shortcut. Shadow Lane was infamous for its eerie reputation. Locals often warned travelers to avoid it, especially after dark. "Come on, guys," Jake said with a grin. "It's just a road. What's the worst that can happen?" Despite Mia's hesitation, the others agreed, laughing off the warnings as superstitions. Little did they know their casual decision would lead them into a night of unimaginable terror.
The setup.
The first few miles on Shadow Lane were uneventful, but as they drove deeper, the atmosphere began to change. The road was narrow and winding, flanked by ancient trees that seemed to close in on them, forming a dark canopy overhead. The headlights barely pierced the thick fog that hung low over the asphalt, making it hard to see beyond a few feet. Jake turned on the radio to break the silence, but all they could hear was static. "Guess there's no signal out here," he said, turning it off. The car felt isolated, as though they had entered a completely different world. After an hour of driving, Sam noticed something strange. "Hey," he said, pointing out the window. "Didn't we pass that same tree earlier?" The others dismissed his observation as paranoia, but the feeling of déjà vu lingered in the air. The road seemed endless, stretching on without any signs of civilization. The first sign. As they continued, a chilling event shattered their nerves. In the middle of the road stood a woman in a long white dress. Her figure was partially obscured by the fog, but her unnaturally still posture sent shivers down Mia's spine. Jake slammed the brakes, the tires screeching on the damp asphalt. The woman didn't move. Her long black hair covered her face, and her pale hands hung limply by her sides. "What the hell is she doing here?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. Jake honked the horn, but the woman remained motionless. "Let's go around her," Sam suggested, but just as Jake tried to steer the car to the side, the woman disappeared. One moment she was there, and the next, the road ahead was empty. The mystery deepens. Unease settled over the group. Jake tried to lighten the mood by joking, but his forced laughter only added to the tension. The GPS on Mia's phone kept recalculating, unable to provide a clear route. "We must have taken a wrong turn," Jake muttered, but deep down he wasn't so sure. Minutes turned into hours, and the group began noticing other strange occurrences. The temperature inside the car dropped, making their breath visible. The sound of faint whispers seemed to come from the fog outside, though no one could make out the words. Then the radio turned on by itself. A haunting melody filled the car, an old lullaby that none of them recognized. Sam tried to turn it off, but the buttons didn't respond. The song grew louder, filling their ears until it abruptly stopped. The silence that followed was deafening.
The ghostly encounter. Suddenly, Mia screamed. "She's back," she cried,
pointing at the side of the road. The woman in white was now walking alongside the car, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Jake pressed the accelerator, but no matter how fast they drove, the woman kept pace, her movements jerky and inhuman. "She's not real," Jake muttered to himself, gripping the steering wheel tightly. But when he looked in the rearview mirror, he saw her sitting in the back seat, her hollow eyes staring directly at him. The car swerved as Jake panicked, narrowly missing a tree. "We need to get out of here," Laura yelled. The terrifying truth. In their desperation, they spotted a dimly lit gas station up ahead. Relieved, Jake pulled over, and they all rushed inside. The gas station attendant, an elderly man with tired eyes, stared at them silently as they explained their ordeal. "You shouldn't have taken Shadow Lane," he said finally, his voice low and serious. "That road doesn't let people leave once they've entered. It's cursed. You must reach the end, or it will take you." Before they could ask him more, the lights in the gas station flickered, and the man vanished into thin air. The group was left standing in the eerie silence, their fear now bordering on hysteria. The never-ending road. With no other choice, they got back into the car and continued driving. The road seemed to loop endlessly, bringing them back to the same spots they had passed before. The woman in white appeared more frequently now, her presence growing stronger with each encounter. One by one, the friends began to disappear. First, Mia vanished without a sound, her seatbelt lying empty. Then Laura, who screamed as she was pulled into the fog by an invisible force. Sam clung to Jake, begging him to stop the car, but before Jake could react, Sam too was gone. Now alone, Jake drove on, the whispers in the fog growing louder and more menacing. The woman appeared in the passenger seat, her hollow eyes meeting his in the rearview mirror. "You will never leave," she whispered. The conclusion. The next morning, a search party found the SUV abandoned on Shadow Lane. The car doors were open, but there was no sign of the friends. The locals, shaken but unsurprised, added their names to the long list of people who had vanished on the cursed road. It is said that on foggy nights, Shadow Lane comes alive, trapping unsuspecting travelers in its endless loop. And if you listen closely, you might still hear the faint whispers of those who were lost forever.
Here you friends, like our horror stories. So please subscribe Dark Story Tales YouTube channel and press the bell icon for new story and new spine-chilling experience.